Gentleman from Newport News, Mr. Hamilton.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, you know that for the past 12 months, there's been a lot of dialogue coming from the other side of the Potomac about the state of our national economy. And even with President Obama signing the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 yesterday in Denver, the economy continues to be the most pressing problem facing all levels of government. On Monday, we learned that the Virginia budget is facing another projected $821 million revenue loss for this biennium. The good news with this short-term additional revenue from the federal government would mean that we likely do not have to make any more budget reductions during this biennium. While the federal plan provides a short-term revenue that backfills a lot of the reductions that have already been proposed, the plan provides little evidence that it will actually stimulate the economy or create new private sector jobs for the American workers. Too little money is returned to the taxpayers, the consumers who actually stimulate the economy through their purchase of goods and services, or to small businesses that serve as the backbone of our economy by creating the private sector jobs that keep the American economic engine moving forward. Because this economic downturn has been predictable for the past several years, the Virginia General Assembly has passed several initiatives that focus on improving the public infrastructure and creating incentives for job creation within that private sector. In 2007, the General Assembly passed legislation that provided for $3 billion in bonds over a 10-year period of time to address transportation construction. That piece of legislation also increased the vehicle registration fees, equalized the diesel fuel tax with the gasoline tax, and dedicated 1/3 of the insurance premiums tax to transportation. While there is still much more that probably needs to be done, this additional revenue provides more funding to address transportation improvements in Virginia. More specifically, the legislation provided a significant infusion of revenue to build rail lines from the ports of Hampton Roads to connect with the Heartland Corridor to carry goods across this nation. Just last year, in 2008, the General Assembly passed a higher education bond package for college and university construction projects as well as other state facilities. Legislation was also passed that allowed up to $350 million worth of revenue-producing capital projects on the colleges and universities. And so far during this session, Mr. Speaker, we have passed the Advanced Shipbuilding Performance Grant legislation. We've passed the Major Business Facilities Job Tax Credit, which extended that tax credit until 2020. We've also passed the Major Employment and Incentive Projects legislation that provides incentives for the Virginia Public Building Authority and the Virginia Resources Authority to finance projects through state and local governments to help stimulate the actual construction and job creation across the Commonwealth. In each instance, all of these supported business and industry for high-impact regional economic development projects. In addition, the House budget included $3 million for the tourism industry. $3 million for tourism, clean industry, where individuals come into the Commonwealth, they benefit from our history, they benefit from our theme parks, they benefit from our museums and other attractions, and then they go home, leaving their money behind. Rather than just talk about the need for economic stimulus, the General Assembly has been proactive in addressing job creation and revenue production over the last several years. We have put in place the motto that Virginia is open for business. Ranked as the best managed state in the Union and the best place to raise and educate a child, the Commonwealth has a solid record for actually stimulating the Virginia economy without increased government spending that does little more than create public sector jobs. As a right-to-work state with responsible tax and regulatory policies, Virginia is poised to weather this economic downturn for both the short and the long-term benefit of the Commonwealth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.